Bring in our great friend Steve Leisman, senior economics reporter. He's got some news on Geithner, on stress tests, on Bernanke, and on the American banking system. That's a tall order.
It's a heck of a troika. Geithner, Bernanke, and the banks. The Treasury today, Larry, announcing details of its new bank rescue effort that ultimately could make the government a big shareholder in some of the nation's biggest banks. In an interview this evening with the NewsHour with Jim Lehrer, Treasury Secretary Tim Geithner explained government ownership as a temporary backstop for the banking system.
We want these firms to be able to raise capital in the private markets, but we're providing a sort of a backstop, a form of insurance, to make sure that, again, they're strong enough to get through a more challenging economic environment.
Here's the new plan. The 19 biggest banks will first undergo a stress test that will examine a bank's ability to absorb losses if the economy ends up worse than currently forecast. For example, if unemployment tops 10%. Or house prices fall more than 30%. When the stress test shows banks need capital, the plan offers a way to basically sell the government common stock. Banks can convert the existing preferred shares the government holds from the old TARP plan into new convertible preferred shares, or they can buy new shares. This new preferred can in turn be converted to common as needed. That would give the government direct ownership stakes in the banks. Fed Chairman Ben Bernanke said in Congress today, this is a step short of real nationalization.
A nationalization, to my mind, is when the government seizes the bank, zeroes out the shareholders, and begins to manage and run the bank. And we don't plan anything like that.
The first victim or beneficiary, you take the pick, could be Citigroup, as we're likely to hear tomorrow about a new effort to rescue the bank.
Really? A new effort?
It'll be the third attempt.
Bernanke parsing words here. Look, a straight-out FDIC takeover of a failed bank, that is total nationalization. Right. We know that. On the other hand, if the government owns 40% of the shares of Citibank, that is an effective federal takeover. Is Bernanke parsing words here, blowing smoke at us? Too clever by one, too cute by three?
I don't actually think so, Larry. I think what he's saying is, look, we already have massive control of these banks, either through supervisory authority or our control of the preferred. That, look, this is not a big change from the control we have already. The big question that was unanswered for me today is, will there be government rules for exercise of the voting shares in the common stock once it gets it? I did not get a chance to ask.
And another question is going to be, who's going to run this show? Page 1, Wall Street Journal. Victor Pandit is complaining he may be history. Who's going to run the show? Which regulator do these guys report to? Let me bring in Arthur Laffer. I want to get his take on all this and a few other things. Art Laffer, the head of Laffer Investments, former Reagan advisor, and the co-author of The End of Prosperity. So, Arthur, let's have a quick lay of the land here from your perspectives.
Yeah, what they're doing, Larry, is the government's borrowing all the private capital available in the marketplace. Then they're the only ones left to invest anywhere, and it is effectively a partial nationalization of not only the banks but of the auto industries. It's a catastrophe, and the market's giving a huge thumbs down and raspberry on these policies. I've never seen anything so bad in my life.
What about this issue of the forthcoming Geithner plan, the public-private fund that's going to band together and purchase the toxic assets from the banks? Do you give that any credibility, any efficacy? Will it do any good?
I don't. I really don't. I mean, everyone agrees with stress tests for banks. I mean, that's clear. But banks should do that on their own. And they should worry about their own capital functioning. That's what they should do. It shouldn't be a government function. And how does the government know what it's going to be in unemployment rates, what the sensitivities are here? That's something that on the companies I'm on the boards of, we always do stress testing to see how we can handle bad times. But this is just government coming in and taking it all over, and it's outrageous.
Steve Leisman, outrageous. That's one of my favorite adjectives.
Let me just say I share Arthur's skepticism about the government's ability to do anything here. But, Larry, Arthur, you have $600 billion of excess reserves in the banking system on the balance sheet of the Federal Reserve. It is not as if people are clamoring and lining up out the door for private capital right now. I understand over a long period of time there's a situation where the government could crowd out. But in times when you have the kind of slack you have in the economy, I think it's sort of at least conventional economic wisdom that the government doesn't crowd out when it invests at this time.
It's conventional economics from this administration, Steve. But frankly, that monetary base that they've increased by about 150% in the last 6 months is one of the most dangerous, outrageous things I've seen. It's 10 times the percentage increase ever before in the U.S. U.S. And banks are making loans. If you look at the M1 data, Steve, you can see that bank loans are increasing. They're increasing very rapidly.
Across the board.
Across the board
That's
over the last 10 years.
Art, I am your student, Art. I am your student.
Wait, it's a breakdown in the security. It's the breakdown in the securitized secondary market.
That's what it is. That's exactly what it is.
The banks are actually doing their job. And
but there's no
enough,
velocity, Larry. That's the thing. You can put out there $100 trillion if there's no velocity.
But velocity comes later, Steve, and then you're going to get the inflation.